yaran yilla domoro kadiyata
boy jannon CK's restaurant
e sa nakko be ni na
Communication from the chair.
Friday, the 6th of December 2019, for consideration and enactment by this August Assembly, and also presented in is before us for correction and approval. Can any honorable member please move a motion for correction and approval of the record of proceedings, record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, the 6th of December, 2019. Can somebody please move? Yes, honorable member for Kantora.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move a motion that record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sittings on Friday, 6th of December 2019
Thank you.
be considered.
Seconder, Woolley East.
Thank you. I rise to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, the 6th of December 2019 be approved. Any issues or observations from honorable members? We start with page 1. I believe you have yours. Unfortunately, I cannot trace mine. Okay, thank you. Yes, we start with page 1. Page 1. No? Okay, page 2. Can we confirm the attendance, please? Make sure that everybody is properly captured. Okay, it continues, the attendance on page 3. Yes, Woolly East. Page 3 or 2?
Yes, page 3, last paragraph, first line. At the end of the first line is victim. You just put S there, victims. There are many victims.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Page 4. Mm-hmm. 5. Yes, Woolies. Page 5. Your microphone.
The fifth paragraph, where you have on both sides of the assembly, the second line, where you have appreciation, you put appreciations, you just take out the S. Thank you.
I have not captured it, but I'm sure, oh yes, yes, thank you.
Page 4.
Page 4,
Where you have observations and or corrections.
Paragraph, on the bills or on the correction?
The line under observations and or corrections, starting with honorable members scrutinize the record of votes and proceedings with correction. That does not read well. What is better is honorable members scrutinize the record of votes and made corrections. You mean we didn't scrutinize the corrections, we made corrections.
Yes. Can I be part of it? Let me, I want to know. Right, thank you. Under observations and or corrections. Any more on page 4 or 5? Yes. Anything else? We're all satisfied with the records? Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, the 6th of December, 2019 be approved with amendments. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Thank you. Clerk, can we proceed?
Bill, debate on the Appropriation Bill 2020 by the Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, as per clause 87, subclause 4 of the standing orders, the bill was seconded, that is the appropriation bill, by the Honorable Member for Lower Fuladu West on Friday, the 6th of December, 2019, and the debate and consideration adjourned to today. As stated earlier, the debate will therefore resume today. But before I open the floor for interventions, I wish to remind honorable members of the provisions of clause 87, subclause 5 of the standing orders, which reads, and I quote, on resumption of the debate, the scope of the debate shall be confined to the financial and economic state of the Gambia and the general principles of government policy and administration as indicated in the bill. I invite all honorable members to respect and observe the rules as indicated above. And on that note, may I invite honorable members who wish to take part in the debate to raise their constituency tags to be recorded accordingly. I wish to call on the honorable member for for Lower Fuladu West. You seconded the motion. You wish? Oh, he didn't raise his hand. I thought he. Yes, Upper Salum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Sorry, I believe everybody has a copy of the speech. It was deposited in the bill as well. Everybody? Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to say a few things about the budget speech and then the appropriation bill that is presented to us by the Honorable Minister last week, Friday. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the world economic outlook as highlighted by the Minister and also confirmed from the by the IMF for October, it is generally seen that the world economic growth all the way up to October is actually on a downtrend. It's about maybe 3%. And what that means is actually the global economic financial thing is going down due to certain issues. And I'm sure you've heard about the issues between the United States and other countries like China, etc. That is actually causing some trade barriers in the world. Now, if you look at the sub-Saharan Africa, also you're going to realize that it's 3.2% in 2019, and then it was also 3.6% in 2020. Which means that there is a growth in sub-Saharan Africa, but the growth actually is really a very small margin. So in terms of Gambia, for example, the estimate for 2019 will be 6.0, but then for 2020, compared to 2018 was 6.5, which means also there's a decline in the Gambia. However, Honorable Speaker, the economy of this country is a very small economy, and also we are very vulnerable, especially with issues going around in the world. Now, what do we do as a country? Now, if you look at the minister's statement, for example, and if you look at the total assets, for example, for government, you realize that, for example, revenue, the amount of revenue that we generate as a country, both tax and non-tax revenue, cannot pay for the expenses that we intend to incur. Basically, that's what it is. The revenue that we estimate that we're going to have in 2020 cannot pay for the expenses. Okay, number one, the expenses, the most important expense, for example, which is contractual, which is the loans that we actually have to pay, and as well as the people that are on the government, that are working for the government, that you also have to pay them. So by the time you take the amount of money we're going to pay for the principal and also the interest on the loans we've taken, and at the same time take that what we pay to the civil servants and other additional operational expenses, you're going to see that more than 70% of the revenue that we generate is almost gone. What are we left with? We are left with a very small amount, probably around 20% or less of the total revenue that we actually have. Now the question is, does that 20% we have remaining or 30% we have remaining, is it really sufficient for our economic development? That's a big question we have to ask ourselves. And again, I think the answer is very clear. No, it's not. Then the question is like, what do we do to close the gap, which means the deficit gap that we actually have in terms of really what we want to do as a nation and also what we get as a revenue. There's a big gap. So how do we close the gap? Now, two things, which is, again, goes back to grants, budget support, and again, if we really want to take loans or et cetera, et cetera. Now, if you look at the loans, for example, that we intend to take to close this deficit. Now, I must also comment the ministry first, Honorable Speaker, before I go any further. Now, if you look at the original draft that was brought to us, the deficit was about almost $5.5 billion. That was the deficit. Now, through the revision with the National Assembly, and also one key area that actually I've seen, which is very clear, which is about the National Debt Service. I think they've done a very good job in terms of renegotiating with renegotiating our loans. What that did actually, it actually helped cut down the debt service by almost 1.7 billion, if my figures are right, about 1.7. And I think this could give a breathing space to the country, which I think is commendable to the Ministry of Finance. Now, if you go further down, Honorable Speaker, now the deficit, based on this new figure, the deficit still is about almost 4 billion. Now, the financing basically is foreign borrowing and also domestic borrowing. But the bulk still would be about foreign borrowing. Now, Honorable Speaker, why the biggest question we really need to ask ourselves is like, if you look at the revenue that are coming, the tax revenue and non-tax revenue, we also have to look at also, is there anything also coming from government investment in the state-owned enterprises? Honorable Speaker, based on the initial figures I have for 2016, the total assets from our state-owned enterprises actually is almost around 18 billion, getting close to 20 billion from the state-owned enterprises. And the liabilities as long from those state-owned enterprises, all of them inclusive, you are talking about almost getting close to 10 billion. Now, we have a bunch of state-owned enterprises that actually are sitting on a lot of assets. But what are these assets doing for this nation? That's the bigger we have to ask. Are we getting anything back, which is the return on investment? Because if you really invest as an investor, you expect to get something back. And that's really the return on investment. What are we getting from them? I think the Honorable Minister did mention that they are working on some reforms with the World Bank. But for me, I think, I'm not so sure if that's really very necessary, because I'm 100% sure the Honorable Minister and his team, they know exactly what needs to be done with these state-owned enterprises. They know exactly what needs to be done. So I don't think there's any need to wait for the World Bank, maybe to pay for the cost of having to do a review. Maybe I will accept that. But in terms of really what needs to be done to get these state-owned enterprises to be on a profitable path, I think they actually know what needs to be done. And I think the law is very clear. It has mandated them to manage the assets and the liabilities of this government, and I think they just need to take the bull by the horn and do what needs to be done to get these people back on a profitable thing. Because otherwise, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to keep on borrowing. And this deficit will also going to keep increasing. But if we can put this state-owned enterprises on a profitable path, I think they could also help to pay for some of this deficit that we may potentially have in the coming years. And I think there is something that needs to be done. Now, if I take away the three big ones, like NAWIC, GAMTEL, GAMCEL, those three alone, you are talking about close to 10 billion, those three alone, in terms of their assets. But then when you look at the total profitability of all of them, it's really very minimal. So which means, really, the return on those assets basically are not really worth it. It's going to be really difficult, and it's not really going to be, it's not going to be really a happy ending, if I may say, but we have to look at the bigger picture. If it is not working, we need to stop it. We need to get them work and be profitable, and if we are unable to do that, I think we have to do the alternative. It's going to be very painful, but again, if you want to really, survive in the future, because our economy is very small and our economy is really very vulnerable. So we have to take those into consideration, Honorable Speaker. And I think we've got to do something very quiet to ensure that we move to the next level in terms of economic development. Honorable Speaker, if I also look at the Minister's speech also, I'm just going to touch on a few sectors only for the sake of time. In information and communication infrastructure, the Minister is telling us that the Minister of Information and Communication Infrastructure is working on transforming the Gambia into a digital nation through the formulation of National ICT Master Plan, which will serve as a blueprint. I think that is commendable. However, Honorable Speaker, we need to have policies for the digital economy, which we don't have as we speak. The digital economy, Honorable Speaker, is actually taking ground in most countries, even in sub-Saharan Africa, for example. If you look at the contribution to the GDP, for example, on our closest neighbor, Senegal, the digital economy is contributing more than 3% to their GDP. Now, Africa alone, we are talking about now is going to double digits. But where are the policies and where are the programs for Gambia to ensure that we maximize on the digital economy? I put a parliamentary question for him, but I think when he gets, he can help us to understand. But I think that needs to be done. And that's the reason why, Honorable Speaker, I'm a little bit surprised when I saw that the Ministry of Information and Communication, after all the things we have done here, I thought for a moment that their budget was actually increased, but it actually has decreased on the appropriation. So I'm a little bit surprised. So maybe perhaps we can go back to our record, but I thought I was not here, but I was monitoring far away until I slept anyway. But there are a lot of things that were raised here in terms of their vehicle and also in terms of ensuring that some of the projects they want to do that the Minister actually has highlighted, which is the ICT Master Plan, is actually going to be completed in 2020. So if it's going to be completed in 2020, where are they going to get the money to pay for those programs? So, and I think it's a good thing that the Ministry is taking up themselves to do this ICT Master Plan, which I believe could come up with a digital economy a policy, and some of these things we really need to ensure we are able to fund. So I think it's essential that we get confirmation whether in actual fact the Ministry of Information and Communication, their budget was actually decreased, which I doubt, but we can get the figures that to be corrected. Honorable Speaker, on the point 74 from Honorable Minister, he did talk about the infrastructure for the national broadband network, which the network is already completed. And basically, it was just to complete what the ECO1 was doing, and that is to interconnect the last miles and also to build a data center. Honorable Speaker, I have a big question for the Minister, which I think we debated here when we are doing the loan. When we are defending the loan itself for the building of this broadband network, I think some people raise the question is like, once this network is complete, what do we do with it? And I think we stood here and then said, well, the private sector can also use the broadband network. At this stage, it's been managed by Gamtel. And this is the thing, and this is the problem we really have, that we really need to sit as a nation and check whether Gamtel is really capable enough to manage this broadband network. Honorable Speaker, on my humble opinion, I believe that we need to create a company that would manage this broadband network where all the private sectors can actually have a stake in terms of actually buying on the network and so that they can run or use the network. But if you're going to give it to Gamtel to manage, Gamtel it has competitors. They're all competing for the same customers. They're all competing for the same kind of services. Now, for me, I don't think it's even very fair that Gamtel will be managing this broadband network while Africell, QCell, Comium, the rest are competing with them for the same thing. I think this must be separated from Gamtel. We need to have a company that will manage the broadband network, and any private sector company that really wants to have access to the broadband network, then you pay for the services and they provide the services for you, instead of actually giving it to Gamtel to manage on their own. I think we really need to relook at that one, but I don't think it's going to work because of certain, if I may call it, bureaucratic issues that we actually have. So the broadband network, I believe we need to create a company that would manage it, and then we have to manage it so that it can pay for itself, Honorable Speaker. We said this here before. When we open this broadband network, Honorable Speaker, it should be able to pay for itself, and to do that, I don't think Gamtel will be the best partner to be able to manage this network. Honorable Speaker, to continue further on the same NBN, part of the loan was also to build a data center. Now, when we have the data center alone, what exactly are we going to do with this data center? There are a lot of things that could be done. Co-location. Most of these companies here, they have DR sites, they have data recovery sites, they have business continuity plans. Now, can they also rent part of the data center and install their servers there? Like the banks, Standard Chartered that I know, I'm 100% sure they've built their own, because I was part of it. Central Bank also, they have theirs also in Bakau. Now, if we are able to manage this NBN properly and manage this data center properly, we can also even charge for co-location. And these are all revenue that would come for the network. And at the end of the day, the loan that we have taken to build this network and to build this data center can actually pay for itself, instead of just making it lie down there and doing almost nothing. I submit that we need to critically look at this national broadband network, look at the data center to ensure that they can provide services to the population. Honorable Speaker, to move right along quickly, I want to also touch on another particular area of concern. I'm not going to touch everything, but these areas that really interest me, okay, I think it should be a little bit behind, which is the productive sector of the economy, which is agriculture. Honorable Speaker, I think this is really very clear here. From the agriculture, it says, annual analysis from NAS, which is the National Agricultural Sector Strategy, estimate the area under cultivation for the 6 major cereals has declined.
Can you refer us to the page, please?
Page 21, on the minister's page 21. 21, yeah. So it's saying that, NAS is saying that it has declined from 206,300 hectares in 2018 to 170,000 hectares in 2019. Honorable Speaker, we need to find out why it has declined. A similar trend is also being observed in groundnut, which is expected to decline from 79,923 hectares in 2018 to 54,000 hectares in 2019. That's almost a 20,000 decline in hectares. Honorable Speaker, we need to find out why this is actually happening. Agriculture is actually anchoring this economy, and it also employs the bigger chunk of the population of this country. And if we see that it's actually declining in terms of land utilization, I think there are a lot of questions that need to be asked. Groundnuts in particular. Honorable Speaker, if you look at one of the other state-owned enterprises, like GGC, which is Gambia Groundnut Corporation, which I did talk about in generality. Now, their total assets, GGC, as 2016 financial figures, was 596,600,000. But their total liability was 645,300,000. So essentially, their liability actually even more than their assets. Now, the groundnut they purchased for the past 2 years, what actually have they done with that groundnut? Let's find out. What have they done with that groundnut? Has the groundnut been exported? Has the groundnut been processed into something else? Value additions, have they done that? Now, when I look at these figures, for me personally, I'm not surprised when I look at these figures for GGC. Because their total assets is way more than their total, their total liabilities are way more than their total assets. What is happening? What actually happened to the groundnuts that they've purchased for the past 2 or 3 years? What happened to it? And I think that's a big question that the Honorable Minister, you need to actually help us to understand. Otherwise, their figures really is mind-boggling. And I think we really need to do something. Now, in terms of groundnut also, Honorable Speaker, we've been told over and over again about this aflatoxin issue. But yet still we are using the same type of groundnut in this country. What can we do as a nation? Do we have to work together to change the entire seedlings of the ground we have in this country, move them away, and then have new seedlings in this country, have new seeds that we're going to plant? Because we've been also told that because of the aflatoxin presence in our groundnut, also it fetches low market prices. So now I think something needs to be done, Honorable Speaker, that we have to change our entire groundnut and bring better varieties that would fetch higher prices for our farmers, and essentially can also help to support the economy also to another level. Honorable Speaker, to also, I think that should be the last one I have here, which is about, the last one I have actually is about tourism. It was really very clear from the Honorable Minister that all strategic priorities, except for tourism, face significant constraints in achieving a more progressive on their outcomes. So what this means is tourism, they're on the right path. That means tourism, they're doing well. And that's the reason why I was also surprised, because I think, I was not here, but I think there's a lot of members that spoke about increasing certain sectors of the tourism ministry, which, if I remember right, which is National Council for Arts and Culture. And that's the reason why I'm also surprised that the budget on the appropriation for tourism actually has declined by almost 6 million. I'm a little bit surprised, but we can confirm with the figures. Because for money, when I was monitoring, I thought that it was increased to ensure that some of these departments can actually run at a better pace because of their performing. And again, I think generally, any ministry or any department that is actually performing, I think they need to be supported well. And that's the reason why I'm a little bit surprised when I saw that the appropriation for the Minister of Tourism actually has declined from original 46 million to 40 million. But again, we can confirm the figures. Honorable Speaker, that's all I have for today. And I want to thank again the Honorable Minister and his team for really looking at the debt situation of this country. But I firmly believe that we can still do more. We can still do more in terms of ensuring that the revenue that we're getting as a nation is actually increased. Let's look at the leakages we have in our revenue streams from Gambia Revenue Authority. Let's just ensure that the collections by GRA, they are supported financially and they are supported technologically to ensure that the leakages actually are reduced. The leakages, you cannot eliminate them. That's all over the world. But we can reduce to actually help to increase the revenue that they are actually collecting. Now, because I don't believe for a minute that the tax revenue will be, even though it's actually increasing compared to the non-tax revenue, I don't think it will be enough in the foreseeable future to anchor some of the burden that we actually have as a nation. And on that note, I want to thank you, Honorable Speaker, and then the Minister. Thank you.
Honourable members, the revised copy of the estimates is being distributed. I just want to find out whether everybody has a copy, the revised one for the National Assembly, so that we'll just allow the lady to distribute it. Otherwise, it will be. She'll come around. She's coming. Everybody will have a copy. Yeah, she's coming. She's coming. I just want to make the announcement because some of. Maybe you will need it during your intervention. But The copies are here, so it will be distributed. Honorable Member for Banjul North.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Minister of Finance, I think I would start by saying that something very important is always missing here. The National Assembly is hosted by Banjul North, and we always come here every year to discuss about billions of dollars being allocated, and yet we are not giving anything as a host. So I think it's high time we start requesting for royalties. On a more serious note, Honorable Speaker, I also want to be part of the debate to share my concerns regarding the appropriation bill presented by the Honorable Minister of Finance for the 2020 financial year. The Minister of Finance, Honorable Speaker, told us that the total revenue and grants for 2020 would amount to $24.5 billion, and out of this, $11.6 billion would be from tax revenue and $2 billion from non-tax revenue. The Minister also indicated that all the strategic priority areas except tourism have experienced constraints in terms of achieving progress in their outcomes. He further told us that the pledges made by the donor community in 2018 to support the NDP, only 10%, amounting to $183 million, and the pledges were $1.8 billion, that only 10% has been realized in terms of disbursement. So any development intervention that relied on this would naturally falter, as there are no inflows for them to anchor them. The Honorable Minister also told us that for government to consolidate the fiscal front, it requires bold reforms, such as limiting the government's borrowing. Every time, I think the government, the executive would tell us that that is a requirement, that there is need for government to reduce borrowing in order to reduce the deficit gap, to regulate the balance of payments, and also reduce debt service payments. But yet, every year, we have been seeing continuous borrowing against the recognition of this as a challenge. He was also talking about the rationalization of government agencies, such as embassies, civil service, and security sector reform, and ensuring debt sustainability. Honorable Speaker, the debt restructuring, as announced by the Honorable Minister, that the donors have agreed to restructure $1.7 billion, of course, is welcome. But this is just the postponement of the D-Day. It must come. D-Day must really come. It's not relief, it's just a postponement, rescheduling. The government recognizes the fiscal risks posed by state enterprises, and I think this is an area that we really need to focus on. This is a potential that the country can rely on to be generating revenue. And I would be the last person to advise government to resort to privatizing any of our state-owned enterprises. These are national assets. These are assets that can generate sovereign wealth. It's just a question of management, restructuring, and government recognizes that. How do we restructure the SOEs to ensure that they function, they are economically viable, so as to be paying dividend to support other development interventions of the government? One way of going about this is signing performance contracts, and this has been recognized. And I think this is the way forward. And as I understand, government is looking for technical support to be able to do this. How long would that take? It's an issue. But I think this is something that government needs to fast track. Let us restructure our state-owned enterprises. Let us retain them and ensure that they are economically viable. It's a source of creating employment for the young people, for Gambians, qualified Gambians, not necessarily being young even, and also a source of revenue generation. Because we must start divesting our mind on contracting loans to support our development. Loans can never support our development. And grants as well. The country has the potential, and the challenge of this country is how to harness these potentials in terms of natural resources. In terms of human resources, the potentials abound, but it's just a question of harnessing, and we have not yet started harnessing the potentials of this country. And I think that should be the focus of the government. The minister even highlighted this. He acknowledged this, that there are no limits in terms of potentials to transform the Gambia into the guiding light of hope. So why are we not harnessing the potentials? Why are we, sitting back, allowing our development to be dependent on outside support when we have the potential? It's abound. Honorable Speaker, on the area of agriculture, I think we all know that in terms of the workforce, more than 50% of the population are in the sector. But I think it has been highlighted that it's very unfortunate that we're talking about agriculture as the backbone, yet the use of the land is declining in all 6 areas of cereals, and in addition, groundnut as well. So what is the problem? With all the interventions, billions of dollars have been contracted by this country in terms of loans. And this is what we are paying. I will even talk about that in terms of the loans, the loan burden of this country. With all the interventions, the NEMA-CHOSOs, call them, they are so numerous. But yet, they are not translating into the transformation of the lives of farmers, lives of those who are dependent on the agriculture sector, the country as a whole in terms of development. What is the problem? I think we need to revisit our approach. Because, of course, all this, you all know that projects, when you contract loans, what goes to the beneficiaries is even less than 25%. Less than 25% of the loans that we contract for all the projects, all the intervention areas in this country, particularly in the area of agriculture, less than 25% goes to the beneficiaries. The others are on those that are managing project management, utilities, furniture. And yet it is just that under 25% that is going to pay, and that is paying the loans. With this budget, of course, we did some struggle, and the ministry yielded. But what is allocated to agriculture, in spite of the interventions from GLF, is a paltry 488 million Gambian dollars. which constitutes 2.28% of the overall. 2.28% of the overall committed to agriculture. And we're talking about agriculture being the backbone of the country. Because there are interventions, and those interventions are not having any positive effect on the farming population, any positive effect on the development of the country overall. Honorable Minister, we really need to be doing serious thinking. I know efforts are being done, but they are not enough. They are not enough. We really need to revisit our approach. Debt service. This is the nemesis of the Gambia and most developing countries, but Gambia in particular. This coming year, we're going to commit out of the $21,350,446,941, we're going to commit $7,731,394,580 to debt service. And this amounts to 36.21% of the overall GLF. And what this means in simple terms is out of every $3, we're going to commit $1 on debt service as a country. Out of every $3, it's $1 that is going for the service, and we are left with $2. And this is these $2 that we want to apportion to social services, other sectors of the economy. And this is serious. This is really serious. Imagine what this $1 could have done, half of it even. We've just, been as a nation experiencing this tragedy. More than 60 young people died at sea, whilst on the venture to transform their lives. But I believe that if our economy is better managed, the example that I've given, $7 billion being committed on payment of debt service, paying principals and interest. Half of this, how much? What can $3 billion do in terms of providing employment for young people, providing employment for women, creating opportunities in all the value chains, agriculture value chain, fishery value chain, those that are on the land, tilling the land, those that are going to do the processing, harvesting, transportation of the produce, storage of the produce, retail of the produce. How many Gambians could have been engaged meaningfully if half of this amount was committed in these sectors? The purchase of trawlers. Of course, the argument that, well, government should not enter into business because government is not good in doing business, particularly in the area of fisheries. We have seen some private sector ventures engage in the sector, and they have failed. So what is the yardstick? Private sector can enter into it and fail, but yet we continue the private sector. Government enters into it and fails, so government should not go. It's a no-go area for government. What is the yardstick? What is the rationale? What is the justification? It's just management. Just management. As we are talking about these state-owned enterprises, how are we going to rationalize our investments, ensure that they operate in a transparent and accountable, fashion? Signing performance contracts to ensure that they deliver, having targets, even having sanctions for failing. The minister told us that $5 billion annually is committed in the procurement of goods and services. And out of this, between 10 to 25% is pilfered due to, he said, is wasted due to human interference. And of course, that means pilferage, or if you use the term corruption. And we are talking about $1.2 billion out of this $5 billion. How much could this amount have done if it is invested in creation of employment for young people? There is need for government to also rationalize procurement so that this wastage, this 25% that is going into people's pockets, would be utilized in creating employment for our young people and women, and then supporting the development of the economy. The day that I said it was, I think, the day when I talk about investing in the youth guarantees security, is what guarantees security than investing in any security apparatus. That very day, in the evening, the announcement was made that more than 60 young people drowned. Of course, Honorable Minister, we welcome the initiative of committing some amount, that is the levy on the gateway, for the purpose of youth development, youth and sports development. It's a welcome initiative, but what is missing is how much are we expecting from the levy? How are we going to utilize it? In which areas? That's what is missing. It's a good idea to have a levy to support young people, because if you look at the youth and sports budget, it's youth and sports budget out of GLF is very minuscule, 0.53%. 0.53% of the budget is allocated for youth and sports development. Of course, the justification, according to the minister, is that they have targeted this levy from the gateway to be supporting this. But how much are we expecting from the gateway, and where do we want to invest it? And Honorable Speaker, I think the Honorable Minister also should also take note that we talk about investing in the young people. And of course, the approach naturally is helping them to acquire skills. But that's not enough. But the approach in this country is that is the approach, that we just help them acquire skills and that's the end of it. We allow them to hustle the rest, to struggle for the rest. I think it has to be a whole package. It's an accompaniment, creating the opportunities for them to acquire the relevant skills, accompanying them to establish enterprises, and also creating markets for them. Government can even be a market, like for instance, if it is in the furniture area. This furniture could have been made by Gambian carpenters. They're skillful. Young people could have been encouraged to go into the trade. Government can be one of the, the foremost clients with this procurement. This 1.5 billion, 1.2 billion that I'm talking about, that is pilfering. Part of it could have been supporting young people in the carpentry industry, metal work. There are lots of potentials. There are so many things that we can do for our young people. But it's just not helping them to acquire the skills and then leave them to do the rest. We need to be, so that means we need to have schemes. Government must really sit down. The last time I said it here, I understand that there is an investor who wants to invest in the poultry sector. And what is being said is that once this enterprise is established, he'll be producing millions of eggs for Gambians. And yet we have Gambians who are engaged in the sector, fledgling sector. In fact, there are some investments to the tune of millions of dollars. Young people, why don't government come up with a plan? And I understand from the operators, because I have interactions with them, that what is missing, and I definitely agree with them, is that government is not sitting down. There's no talking being done. Government is not engaging them to identify potentials, identify interests, and come up with a scheme. We're talking about agriculture, the family farms. Where's the scheme? Where's the program? And even this amount of money, rather than government taking this 7 billion, $3 billion could have been a very good startup capital to establish a bank, cooperative bank, for farmers, for those engaged in the fishery sector, subsector, those engaged in the value chain of this, productive-based activities, or production-based activities, rather. Gambia's vulnerability, as indicated by the Honorable Minister of Finance, can only be addressed if this country commits its resources, meager resources, invests its meager resources in the productive sectors of the economy. That would ensure the elimination of our dependence on food imports. We have the capacity to feed ourselves. Gambia has the potential to ensure food security for the population, but it's not being harnessed. This is an area that we can, address to address our vulnerability to external shocks, as they say. If we can be producing our own food and then boosting our capacity to be exporting and then earning foreign exchange for other sectors, for investment in other sectors. The import cover, we talk about five months import cover. Gambia has the potential to have 2-3 years import cover this year. This is the only way that we can guarantee our resilience in terms of the economy and in terms of development. I talked about agriculture and the fishery sector. Honorable Minister, in the area of health, I must applaud the support being given by the Minister and team at the Ministry of Finance. The sector requested for an amount, but I think the practice here in the Gambia is that whatever amount you request, don't expect to get all. So I think they have to devise schemes that if they want $1, they say $3. As they do, as we normally do with they said these retailers, that if they come and give you a price, just cut it halfway. And in fact, yesterday, something very touching. I saw something posted, and this is saying that when we go to supermarkets, the prices are not negotiated. You don't negotiate the prices on the tax. You just come, you dare not, because you dare not, and you also feel, it's humiliating to go and, to be. But when you come out from the supermarket, you see a woman with a plate of bananas. You ask the woman a bunch, and she tells you $25. She said, no, pay 15. And that woman is a woman carrying a baby, and she's not expecting anything from that. Nothing more than $50 to take home. So this is for us, that when we are buying from retailers, we also have to, do it with conscience. That just do it as we are doing with supermarkets. This is just a by way of passing, honorable members. Honorable Minister, yes, I was talking about health, that of course we applaud the initiatives, the support also, that the amount was later increased, but it's still not enough. But of course there are lots of things to be done in terms of these sectors, in terms of the rational utilization of the resources, meager resources, the need for efficient checks and balances to ensure that every butut goes to where it is intended. That's a challenge, we recognize that. So, well, like I said, we applaud the support you give into the sector, and we're anticipating that this National Health Insurance Scheme, when it comes into play, is going to be universal coverage, health coverage, for the majority of the population, particularly the vulnerable, whose out-of-pocket expenses in terms of health renders them poorer or even kills them. So this is being initiated in the direction to address that. We're hoping that the necessary consultation is done so that we're going to get what we really intend to realize out of it. Yes, basically, I think these are the issues that I wanted to talk about. Of course, how I would have wished this appropriation to be is actually not what I expected, because the reductions in certain areas have not been done, particularly centralized areas. The amount is still increasing. We wanted it to be unpacked. Hopefully, we've already done the approval, but when we look at the approved version when it is out. But Honorable Minister, I think this is all, Honorable Speaker, that I wanted to say by way of intervention, only to conclude that there is a huge task before us. There is argument. Some young people should not venture into this back way. It's perilous. It's suicidal. Some people are making those arguments. That the $30,000 that they pay could have been invested. They could have started a small business. It's not as easy as that. It is not as easy as that. Oh yes, it can be done, but it's not as easy as that. They're talking about the trade fair. What? Go to the trade fair. They're asking them to pay $4,000 to get a stall. $4,000. You are selling fish cake, pancake. That's what some of them sell, and you pay $4,000. If you look at even higher renting a shop from some commercial areas, what you're paying just for a stall for a few weeks is more in comparative terms. So we really need to sit down, look at this issue of young people. How do we help them? And it's just not piecemeal intervention. They are interconnected. In fact, during the adjournment debate, I'm coming up with this. There are proposals of how to address this issue of backway. We really need to face it. We really need to focus on the area. And there's a solution. There is a solution. I'm insisting. You cannot eliminate immigration. You cannot. You can never eliminate people to immigrate. In all the religions, we see in Christian, in Islam, Hijrah, the Prophet. So you cannot stop immigration. But the scale that it is taking, and the toll that it is taking, is really unacceptable, if I can use that word. We must do something to focus on young people. How do we help them acquire skills? In fact, it starts at the education level, to get the relevant education that they need. If they want to go the technical way, to get the requisite skills that they need. And after that, how do we accompany them to establish? And to make these chain links, these links, you are producing. If you produce, you need people to come and buy. Those who are coming to buy need to have purchasing power. So that means doing so many things at the same time, but connected. So that the one producing, what the person is producing, there is someone who is ready to buy it and who has the capacity to buy. Look at the salary scales, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, we also need to revisit the salary scales. Last year, we did 50% increment across the board. For me, I was vehemently opposed to that. I was arguing against it, but of course, I cannot insist, otherwise others would feel that you are not fair with us. But what I'm saying is, it has to be proportionate. Those are the lower ranks. We have to eliminate wages. I think it's not reflected in the budget. But the grade 1s, grade 2s, grade 3s, drivers, what they receive, the caretakers, we really need to augment it. Nobody should receive a salary of less than $3,000 in this country. Less than 3,000, I mean. Even 2,000 is small, I agree. Even 3,000 is small. Nobody should receive a salary less than. Across the board, government can establish this. Across the board, private sector, anybody who's employing anyone, $3,000. But government must take the lead. Government must take the lead. The Labor Department must be reinvigorated. They must really do what is prescribed by law. Like I said, the Gambia is before us, it's in our hands. That is the legislature and the executive in concert. We cannot, no one can work in isolation. We cannot work in isolation because they are the implementers, they are the executive, they execute. But we are the ones who approve, we are the lawmakers, we are the ones who have oversight. We can only do it in concert. But this is the responsibility before us. We need to do things to stop our young people dying in this state. It's not a matter, and it's not a matter of cheap propaganda. Let nobody use this as a propaganda, political propaganda. We all need to sit down, focus, work together across party lines, across interests, to focus to address the challenges facing Gambians. And it's not only young people, women are there, and even the elderly, the pensioners. Look at the pensioners. Somebody earning $19 a month. You have to wait for three months. And what you get is not even $500 as pension. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Upper Fuladu West. Yes, Upper Fuladu, yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Actually, I thought I was coming later, but no,
I thought you raised your tag.
Yes, but I wasn't.
Yeah, but because
it's okay.
It should have been Banjul Southstone, but she's not around. So
no, that's fine. I'll give my. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'll start my intervention by just going straight to the minister's statement, where he made a very good case in terms of some of the policies that the government intends to adopt going into 2020. However, I have some few observations that I want to bring to light, and that's what I was working on. For example, I've seen a lot of some discrepancies that I would like the minister to clarify for me, because I believe what we have passed here last Friday night, Saturday morning, was what would be adopted in the appropriation bill. However, I have seen numbers that are not making sense to me as per our recommendation, and I would like the minister to come and clarify those for us. In particular, the Ministry of, I've seen some deductions in all areas, but we have made an emphasis here that the Ministry of Agriculture, we wanted $100 million increase, but for some reason there is only $93 million increase. So I would like the minister to clarify that for us. As far as as well as health, I think the savings we made was about 150 million that we decided to put into health, but I've only seen $109 million increment. And with all those sort changes, the minister have decided to leave the centralized services as it were at 1.45 billion. And just now, when I was handed over this particular new revised copy of the estimates of revenue and expenditure, I've seen that number shoot up from 1.45 billion to 1.63 billion. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? In as much as we are seeing cuts here and there, that looks attractive. Certain areas are going up by significant numbers that I couldn't make sense of. But I'm sure the minister would be able to shed light on that. I also want the minister to inform this august body, what is debt structuring, and debt restructuring. Why should it be an income to the economy? As it was said earlier, I believe that debt restructuring basically means like waiving our debt interest for a later date. It should not be classified as a $2 billion injection into the economy. But I will need clarification from the experts. And again, the nominal gross domestic product, or the summary of all the funds on page 1. I've seen something that, accounting-wise, it doesn't make sense to me. The net surplus or deficit should be 0 in the financing gap. That's the below the line, you call it the below the line items. But for some reason, I've seen there minus 335,827,000. Normally, it should be 0, because then you will be able to finance your deficit and bring it to 0 according to the numbers you have indicated. Going further, because definitely I want to look at this very thorough, but since the time is not on our side, I want to refer this House to page 6 of the revised version of the revenues and estimates. And I just want to draw the attention of the House to the grant element under the expenditure budget funding overview. The grant element has also gone up from 8.1 billion to 8.28 billion. Again, Honorable Minister, I would like some clarifications in there. And another observation I have made, which we have been very, very particular, in terms of development, because when we talk about development, we talk about capital. But again, I have seen a significant drop of about $71 million is now in drop in capital, from 1.168 billion to 1.097 billion. So it means, of all we have discussed here, in terms of development, we are seeing a decrease in that. And part of that is affected by, I can see, under schools, laboratories, and facilities. On page 7, I can call the item number, but you will see, on the fixed assets that was proposed to be built, in schools, has dropped from 233 million to 193 million, which, with a significant, $40 million, drop. This will affect schools. This will affect, kids, going to school. So I would like some explanation on that. However, we have seen increases, here and there. In particular, page 8, consultancy. I don't understand consultancy. Consultancy, from 104 billion to 104 million to 213 million in consultancies. Yes, I'm using both the revised and the original the draft. And it's $109 million increment on consultancies alone. Mr. Speaker, this is worrying, but I'm sure the minister will come again and clarify those for us. We discussed about national security, especially National Security Office. But I have not seen anything here, talking about national security. All I have seen is national security operations. But a mere $400,000, for the whole National Office of the National Security is what I've seen here. But again, I might be wrong. The minister might refer us to the right item. And another thing, talking about debt, and more debts. We have seen again, numbers are not adding. In terms of our financing gap, in page 10, you will see, at the last line was 5 billion and 77 million. Now it's 5.2 billion, an increment of about 180 million. And that is, as far as I can see, is under the settlement of confirmed debts. It has now gone up from 300 million to 480 million. And the last time we were talking about this in the centralized services, what are confirmed debts and what are other charges and contingencies and stuff like that. So again, I will need a quick clarification on that. But in all in a nutshell, the appropriation bill that we have, the minister has tabled here, you will see across lines, most of the areas are not making sense. And I would like the minister to come back and clarify that for us, because here, what we have is 21,350,646,941. But the revised copy that we have here is 21,530,646,941. The difference here is about 180 million. I would like the minister to again tell us where that number, why the difference is between the appropriation bill and the revised expenditure, revenue and expenditures. We talked a lot about youths, and the minister made a very compelling case, in terms of the allocation for the youths this time. Even though, again, the revised version will show you that there's a $1 million drop in the allocation to the ministry, but the minister made a case here that there is a new levy that is coming into play on January 1st, which there could be another 120 million coming towards the youth element. Well, I appreciate that, and I believe that is going to be the case. But since it's not in play yet, we can only work with what we have. I'm not saying that what the minister is working on, and because I have some information about it, is the case. But I think that money will go into legislation of how the ministry have to actually control this money and execute the money. So I think there will be a form of like a policy or a legislation to determine the Ministry of Energy, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, executing those funds into the various sectors to affect youths. But you will see of all the areas that cuts are, most significant that attract my attention is when we talk about youths, we're not only talking about the Ministry of Youth and Sports, but we're talking about trade, tourism, information, fisheries. These are all areas where employment of youths can be highly generated. But unfortunately, all these areas are cut. So I cannot understand why these areas are losing budget allocations, and how would that affect the youth employment capabilities of the nation. The National Audit Office, another oversight body, apart from ourselves, I've seen a significant drop, cut from there as well. So, Honorable Minister, can you please help us on that? And more so, the Ministry of Tourism. We did not mention here about the issue of product mapping to make sure that the Ministry of Tourism will be able to attract more visitors in the Gambia. We have to have products to be able to sell. It's not only the sea, the sun, and the sun, but about our culture, our heritages that we need to sell now. But again, I have seen a cut here, and I have seen a cut at the Ministry of Works. And we talked about the Jufure, the Hakalang Road, and James Island, all to be revived or addressed in the course of 2020. But there is no link to show that there is the funds for these monies to go into that area. Apart from that, I think that's basically that's how far I've got to. Although maybe there might be some more observations moving forward in the revised copy of the estimates on revenue and expenditure. But I will stop here for now, Madam Speaker, and I would like the Minister to definitely help us clarify some of these issues that I have raised. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At a point of observation, excuse me, I've observed that honorable members are going through their revised version of the estimates. So I'm not sure whether we can have a proposal, take a 45-minute suspension to allow honorable members to flip through it, and then we come back up to 3 o'clock, go for lunch break, and then come back. It is just a suggestion. My observation is that I see honorable members going through it. So if that is agreeable, we can just suspend. There's no need for a motion. We shall suspend for how many minutes, or do we proceed? The decision is yours. Let me hear, yes, honorable member for Serekunda, and then I'll take the cameras out. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, there is no doubt that it is necessary to suspend because we have a new document in our hands. Yes, we have a new document in our hands, and we need to scrutinize it and at least make up our mind in our presentation. I must be honest to say that my reflection was on the old document and thinking that we will be able to gauge what we reduce and what we added. But since they have come up with it now, I think it is important that we scrutinize it. At least have an hour or two to be able to do that.
Thank you. Yes, Birkama South.
Thank you so much. Madam Speaker, my candid opinion is for us to go ahead since we have slight differences, and you can make references. Since you have the old one, you can, during your debate, you can make references and look at it, what has been cut or what is still maintained. So my candid opinion, we go ahead with the debate.
I just want to be fair to everybody. Actually, the decision to suspend or not to suspend actually rests with the chair. So it's just an observation. I see honorable members going through But if the view is that we continue, we can continue, and then honorable members who want to go through it can have their interventions last. So please don't put me in a fix. Probably I shouldn't have made the proposal. Honorable member, let me make a decision. Let us suspend for about 30 minutes to allow honorable members. No, I've already said it. Can we please take a suspension of 30 minutes, go through it? No, please, 30 minutes and we come back. 12:30, can we come back, please? Thank you. Honorable, with all due respect, please, decorum. Thank you.
ñoo ñëw ak yéen rek Skincare Plus nara jàkkaarloo ak yéen waxtaan ak yéen tuuti rek si suñu tube suñu baax emuñ rek ci ay diw waaye comme ni ngeen ko xamee rek dañoo yëngu ci ay tube te yënguwuñ nag si just any tube suñ tube bu nekk 5-star Jesna la 5-star Jesna mooy Jesna bi gën a pire moom la ñoo tube palmaan bi gën a fort moom la ñoo liggéeyee buñ demee Bamako ñun duñ dem ci marché bi rek buub indi déedéet dañ leen a jox suñu specs ne lañ nii lañ ko buggee nay lañ ko buggee fóot bi nangami fóot lañ bugga pour mu mun a set waaw cuubi skincare déedéet doo ko sol mu di la taxa all over the place ci gàttal ñun rek si cuub dara du doy day des not only dañoo cuub but bu la neexee ñu cuubal la ba pare nag ñawal la ñaw fi mu gën a setee nag rek la ñoo fulee ñetti ñawkat lañ am nañ ñawkati simple nga xam ne xoppati rek mbaa def sa taille basse def sa dagit def sa roba amul benn dawme am nañ koo xam ne moo ñoo dawme jigéen den am nañ tamit special ñawkat boo xam ne ñawi góor rek la ñoo defal nga bugg sa his and hers muy korité muy tobaski mbaa muy ngénte muy takka mbaa nga bugg rek def sa yëkka bu baax a baax daagul ba ñëw Skincare Plus ñu dimbali la tànnal la cuub fam gën a baaxee ndax sa yëkka gën a foor lii nga ne lan xoolal bi takka la Skincare fii la fu léegi yéen tey we're not all about skin we are skin care and the plus does come in so many different ways Cubantu wuñ de dañ cub bam saf-saf
yaran yilla domoro kadiyata
boy jannon CK's restaurant
e say nakko be ninna dimbal nimbe domoro kala janno
domoro seneyata adiyata topotoro fanan kendema bije luntan during tamala abeka domoro ki janni adi manda wala de te ka we bijele anim fanan ka fadi jang ikono e fa e ka fa minne ko pastry anim bakery iko fanan be kalele badde lomba conference lomba workshop lomba ye fo fendin lon dunia kono domoro betama nyillom international otoda number 1
amanke ba domola jandama
e sa domo jang is atariya
wo mu kubandi
sa nakko sa futandin
e oto sa nakko be mu CK's restaurant
ndafa nan jannamu yat ni manje dorom bijam
aban
CK's restaurant, known for best quality food and customer satisfaction.